All right, so we'll start over here on Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. We're up to Ein Poichasin, Mehen Vein Meisifin. Talking about when you have three aliyahs, which is on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as on Mincha on Shabbos afternoon. So it says that you don't make any less or any more. You have to have at least three, but you can't do any more. So, Zok Gemara, Tana, we learned in a Braisa that Hapoiseyach Mevorech Lefaneha, the original way it was set up is that the one who gets the first aliyah, he makes the first bracha, and the one that gets the last aliyah, he gets the last bracha. So if you have three aliyahs, then you have one bracha by the Kohen. Let's say if it's have Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. So you do one.
Yeah.
What?
I don't see the Gemara. I'm just seeing that header, Megillah 22a. I'm not seeing the text of the Gemara.
Not seeing text of the Gemara. I was worried about that. So let me try to reshare this. Oh, you're looking at the other side. Yeah. Let me try. Stop this share. Let me try another share. How about this?
Yep. Now I see it.
So again, Tana, we learned in the Braisa, Hapoiseyach Mevorech Lefonel. The one who opens up, he makes the bracha before the first bracha, the bracha that comes before the reading. The Hachoisem, and the one who does the last aliyah, the Yisrael, if there's a Kohen Levi in Yisrael, he is Mevorech La'achareh. He makes the bracha after the third liyah. So you make the bracha, the first one, and the chaysim is varach la'achareh. So originally it was set up only one bracha in the opening of the laning, and only one bracha in the end of the laning. The way we have it today, of course, is we have it that each one makes the bracha in the opening and in the end. So the Gemara is asking, in that case, the Gemara is asking, why? So why did we change this? So the Gemara explains, and nowadays, that all they get an aliyah will make the bracha in the beginning, and in the end, so this is the reason why the rabbis instituted it. Is gezeira mishum hanichnosim or mishum hayotzim. We worry about people that come in to the shul and people that leave the shul. If they come into the shul after the first one made the bracha, they'll come into the shul. And then, if he doesn't see anybody making a bracha, he's going to think that there's no bracha before the Torah, because he didn't hear a bracha because he came late. But he might think that there is no bracha before. Now, he's going to know there's a bracha at the end because he's going to see when they finished Leni, he came late, but he was there till the end. So you see there's a bracha in the end, but he thinks that there is no bracha in the beginning because he didn't see the second and the third ones. They're getting aliyahs and they're not making a bracha in the beginning. So therefore, we say everybody should make a bracha. That is mishum hanichnosim. Or mishum hayotzim, those that leave, is the other way around. We'll see in Rashi, because if they leave before it's finished and they wouldn't see any of the other aliyahs ending with a bracha, they're not going to realize there's a bracha at the end. So therefore, the rabbis instituted we should make a bracha in the beginning and a bracha at the end. Let's do the Rashi again. So the Gemara says, what is the reason? Now that everybody makes before and after, Hainu taimo ditkinu rabbonon. So this is the reason that the rabbis instituted. Is gezeira mishum hanichnosim, is a worry because those who enter after the bracha was made in the beginning by the first one, and they might think that there's no bracha before because they didn't hear the bracha and they don't see the other ones making a bracha. So that's why the rabbi said that the other ones should make a bracha in the beginning as well. And also mishum hayotzim, and because of those who go out of the shul before the end of the bracha, so that you should know that there is an end bracha. So the rabbis said that everybody should make an end bracha as well. So Rashi, let's look inside. Mishum hanichnosim. Mishum hanichnosim. Welcome. Small crowd today. Small crowd today. You here?
I'm here.
Okay. I said there's a small crowd today. Did you get the message that class was at 7, or you still kept it at 7:15?
Yeah, I've been waiting.
And you couldn't get in?
No, it said the meeting wasn't started yet.
Wow. I got to do something about these meetings. I don't know. Somehow I don't have it accurately posted. I'm wondering who else is waiting over there.
It said another meeting was in process, so I canceled and I did it again, and finally I got in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had the same problem. So you're not alone.
Okay. So, all right. At least you got in now. That's the main thing. So let's do the Rashi here.
Can you please tell me where are we?
Yeah. So we're doing the Rashi Mishum Hanichnosim. We're going to do the Rashi over here, but we're discussing in the olden days the way was the way it was done. They would make the bracha, like the Kohen would make the bracha in the beginning, and the Yisrael would make the bracha at the end, the after bracha. So there was only 2 brachas, one at the beginning of the Torah reading and one at the end of the Torah reading. So he's explaining why did the rabbi institute that each person that gets an aliyah should make a beginning bracha and an after bracha. So he explains because some people come in late to shul. I don't know if you know any people like that, but at any event, some people come in late to shul, and if they don't see a bracha by the other ones in the beginning, they'll think maybe there's no beginning bracha. Sometimes people leave in shul before the end of the Torah reading, and if they don't see a bracha at the end, they may conclude that there's no end bracha. So that's why the rabbi said each person gets an aliyah in the beginning and gets an aliyah at the end. I guess one can argue, well, a person can leave in the middle of an aliyah, but I guess only if you are there on a full aliyah and there's no bracha there, then you might make a mistake, not just if you step in and step out. So we're not doing all scenarios. So let's do the Rashi. Mishum hanichnosim. So Rashi, she'im yikones odom lebeis hakneses achar shebeirach rishon. If a person goes into the shul after the first one made the bracha, the Kohen, let's say, made the beginning bracha, but the person entering the shul didn't hear. He came in after he made the bracha. If he's not going to listen, hear the other ones making a bracha, Yoimar, he will say, he'll conclude that ein bracha b'Torah lefanel. There is no bracha in the Torah before it because you didn't hear a bracha. Now he missed in the first one, and so therefore, I mean, it's kind of a hard conclusion. I mean, I see people always coming up with all kinds of reasoning, but the Chacham say that, I mean, he comes in late, and then he's going to say there's no bracha b'torah for now. He should know that he's late, But anyways, the Torah also cares about those who come in late, so they shouldn't make a mistake. And further is also Mishum HaYotzim, those that read, and if they leave before they hear the one who concludes making the after bracha, and the early ones, before the last ones, they didn't make an end bracha, so then they're going to conclude, Yomru, they're going to say, Hayotzim, that ain't bracha b'ter lachara. There's no bracha afterwards. They don't hear an after bracha. They didn't see anybody make an after bracha. So because of that, the rabbis instituted that everybody should make a bracha in the beginning, and everybody should make a bracha in the end. Okay. Now we're going to learn that on Rosh Chodesh, so on a regular day, on Monday and Thursday, and on Shabbos Mincha, you read 3. What happens B'Rosh Chodoshim u'B'Chodesh Shamayit? On Rosh Chodesh Chodesh Shamayit. So over there, Korem Arba v'Chulu. Over there, you by 8. Korem Arba v'Chulu. So over there, we read 4 people for the Aliyah. So the Gemara, boy, Yimenei Ula Barav Merava. Ula Barav said from Rava, Parshas Rosh Chodesh Ketzad. How do we do the portion of Rosh Chodesh? How do we stick in the 4 aliyahs over there in the portion of Rosh Chodesh? I mean, those of you who have followed and seen what we do on Rosh Chodesh, we actually do what the Gemara says over here, but we'll understand. The first aliyah ends, and then the second aliyah, we go back 1 pasuk, and we give him the other aliyah over there, and then we continue with the other 2 aliyahs. You'll see exactly why this happens, and we'll see in the Gemara. So let's see in the Gemara how this all plays out on Rosh Chodesh. So first, the Gemara says, Ula Barav asks from Rava, Parshas Rosh Chodesh Ketzad. How do we read the portion of Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh, we need 4 aliyahs. How do we read them? Ketzad Kodim means how do we read? B'Daled B'nei Adam, how do we get 4 people? So he says like this: Kodim Oisa B'Midbar Chov Ches. Over there we read Tzavez B'nei Yisrael V'Marta Lemes Korboni Lachmi. The Havyin Tmani Psukim, we have 8 Psukim over there. We have 8 Psukim in as Korboni Lachmi. Now, let's take a look at the Psukim over here. So, we're doing over here, Tzavez B'nei Yisrael, that's the pasuk. So I printed it out. Can you see of the Psukim? So you have 1, yeah, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Where's 8? I'm missing 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 8 psukim. So that's one of the portions. We have other portions that we're doing as well. You got 8 psukim. Now the question is, how do we deal with these 8 psukim? What do we do with these 8 psukim? So he says like this. The Havi Tmanya psukim. It has 8 psukim. Heichi Navid, how should we do? Nikri Trey. Let us call up 2 people over there. Each one would get Tlosa psukim. 3, 3. 3 for the first one, 3 for the second one, since we have 8 psukim in this parsha, Pashulu today, you have 2 left over. So he says, the ein mishayrim beparsha pochus mishloishu psukim. So then we don't leave over in a portion less than 3 psukim. So you can't leave over just in this parsha, leave over 2 psukim, because you can't leave in a parsha less than 3 psukim. If you split it up and you give Kohen 3 psukim, and the next 3 psukim you give the Levi, so then the first Yisrael, you left him with 2 psukim. So that means when you finish reading the second Aliyah, the Levi, you left 2 psukim in the parsha. The parsha consists of 8 psukim. And when you did the first 2, you left the parsha with 2 psukim. And you don't leave in the parsha less than 3 psukim. You can't leave 2 psukim. And Rashi says, Lekama mefarish taima. The Gemara will explain why. Also, you don't start less than 3 psukim. You can't start a parsha less than 3 psukim. Nami lekaman amrinla. We say it also later, mefarish time. So the Gemara will discuss later why. But right now we know we have a problem that you cannot finish the second aliyah and just leave 2 psukim in the parsha. So it doesn't work to read 3:3 because you're going to get stuck with 2 psukim after that. Well, so you're going to say, okay, let's split 4 and 4. The first portion of Vaydaber, Nikri Arbo Arbo. Let them read 4 and 4. One, the Kohen will read 4, and the other will read 4. But then we have a problem. Poshulu Shiva. The other psukim that we're going to read is going to be only 7 psukim. 7 psukim. You have 2 and 5. That's going to be the 7 psukim. We'll see in a second the Gemara. Why? You have the pasuk. You have the psukim ubiyom haShabbos. Ubiyom haShabbos nechvos mishonot mimim. That's 2 psukim having trade. Uberosh chodoshim having chamisha. Then Rosh chodoshim. Then you have 5. So you have 2 and 5. You have a total of 7. How are we going to split these 7 psukim between 2 aliyahs? How should we do it? Nikre trei maho v'chad mahanach. So the third one will read 2 of the ones. 2 of Ubiyom HaShabbos, and 1 from Rosh Chodesh, v'chad mahanach, and 1 from the next. But the problem with that is ein maschilim beparsha pochus mishloisha psukim. That means that the third one, who's the third one is going to start from where? The third one is going to start from the 2 psukim that were left in the parsha from the previous one. So we can't start. So again, let's go back for a second. What the Gemara asked over here was Nikra Trei Maho, which is the Maho. That would be that's left over from the previous parsha, from the 8 psukim we gave. We do left over 7, yeah. So how should we do? If you're going to do 2 from what's left over, and then 1 from Yom Shabbos, so that doesn't work because you can't start Ein Maschilin beParsha Pachos Mishloisha Psukim, and since in the parsha right now you only have 2 psukim, you can't start over there. So therefore, what are we going to do? Liktra Trei Meho. So let's read the 2 from this one, from Yom HaShabbos. Utlosa Mehach. And 3 from the other parsha, Poshlu Trei. Then you have only 2 because there's a total of 5 psukim. Let's look at the Rashi. Likri Shlishi Trei Meho. Shnei Mikros, the parsha of Yom HaShabbos. Let him read 2 psukim from Yom HaShabbos. Utlosa Kroi, and read 3 psukim Mibrosh Chachechem. So then the problem is Poshulu Trei. So then you have 2 psukim left over. Okay, so let's go back. I want to look in the parsha so to see what happens over here. What happens over here is if we're going to split it, what the Gemara is saying, if you're going to split the 8 psukim, right? You're going to explain 8 psukim, and then you're going to leave the rest of one. So how are we going to do? So if we're going to do 2 from here, I'm trying to understand the Trei Meho, meaning the 2 of the portion of Yom HaShabbos, and 1 of, so this has to mean, so what is the Gemara saying? Ein maschilin the parsha Pachos Mishloisha Psukim. I'm not so clear what the Gemara is attempting to do over here. Hold on a second. Let me just think this for a second. Okay, so the problem is we're reading like this. The first 2 we already are settled. So the first one reads 4, the Kohen reads 4, the Levi reads 4. Now, what do we do with the other 7 psukim? If we should have the first one, the third one, reading 2 of Yom HaShabbos, and then reading 1 pasuk in the third part, okay, over there, if he's going to read 1 pasuk, we can't do that. He has to read at least 3 psukim. Ein maschilin beparsha pachos mishloisha psukim. You cannot start a parsha and then not read 3 psukim. So you need the 3 psukim. Okay. So what are we going to do? So likri trei meho. So let him read 2 of Yom HaShabbos. Utlosamach, and he'll read 3 from Ubrosh Chachechem. So there's only 5 psukim, Poshulu Trei, then you're not going to have 2 verses left over. So Rashi, Likri Shlishi Trei, Mahoshnei Mikroes. The Parshas of Yom HaShabbos, if the third one is going to read the 2 psukim from these psukim of Yom HaShabbos, 2 psukim of Yom HaShabbos, Utlosa Kroi, and 3 psukim from Mibrosh Chachechem. So then, Poshulu Trei, then you only have 3. I only have 2 left. So what is the third one going to read? So how do we divvy it up? How do we give 4 people to lane these portions that we read in Rosh Chodesh? So that's what he asked him. So Amar Loi. So he answered him, Zu Loi Shamati. I did not hear how to do this. This was asked by whom? before in the Gemara. This was asked by Ulam Rav asked of Rabbi what to do by Rosh Chodesh, and Rabbi says, I didn't hear what to do over here. However, Kayoitze Bo Shamati, I heard something similar to this. The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. We have a similar issue in another place. This is in the Mamodis. They used to have Yisrael b'Mamodom, that the Kohanim, they brought the offerings, the Levis did the singing, and the Yidden stood there, b'Mamodis, Yisrael b'Mamodom. So each day they would say different verses. So b'Mamodis, Nanlei, the Maseches Tainis, it says over there, Yom Horishoy, which means on the first day, which is B'echad B'Shabbos, Sunday. So what do you learn by Yom Harishon, the Tanan? By Yom Harishon, what do they read? Bereshis, V'hirokia. That's from the beginning of Bereshis until the end of Yom Sheni, when Hashem says Bereshis and Yehirokia. That's the first and the second day of creation that you read on Sunday. So B'tani Allah, so we learned about this, that Bereshis is Bishnayim. That the first portion of Bereshis you read 2, and Yirakiya Be'echod of there you read 1. If you take a look, this is the Psukim. So there is 5 Psukim in Bereshis, and there is 3 Psukim in Yirakiya. So you say Bereshis Bara Likim till Vayer Ve'echod, and then you say Vayer Likim Yirakiya. So the Gemara says, so we understand how one person can read in Vayomer Elikim. But how do you have 2 people read 5 psukim if each one needs to have at least 3? So the Gemara says, we looked into the matter. So Bishloima, we can understand Yihirakiya, Be'echod, that you can do 1 for Yirakiya. That makes sense. Why? It lost a psuki habit, because there are 3 psukim. That's 3 psukim. Elo Bereshis Bishnayim. But how do you read the portion of Bereshis by 2 people? Chamisha psukim have it. There's only 5 psukim over there. I mean, this is all what Rabbi is telling him, what the issue was over there. V'tanya, and within the Nabraisa, Hakoyda bat Torah, lo yitzchos mishloisha psukim. One who reads the Torah should not do anything less than 3 psukim. So how are you going to stick 2 people to read b'mamodes in the portion of Bereshis where it only has 5 psukim? How are you going to do that? So v'itmar Allah. So what did we learn? What do we do about it? Rav says doilig. Doilig means he skips, which means that the Rashi says, what does doilig mean? Hasheni choyzeru maschil posik shegomar boy shalafonav. The second person goes back and he starts the verse that the previous one laned. So the first one will lane 3 psukim, and the second one will relane pasuk number 3 and 4 and 5. So each one will have 3 psukim. So the way to do it is the first one reads 1, 2, 3, and the second one reads 3, 4, 5. He jumps backwards and he starts a pasuk earlier. That's the opinion of Rav. Shmuel Omar. Shmuel says poisek. Poisek means that you interrupt, you split the pasuk in 2. Half a pasuk is read by the first one, so he basically has 2.5, and the other half of the pasuk is read by the second one. Shmuel Omar poisek. You split. Rashi says, what does poisek mean? Harishan koyre chatzi apasuk, and hashlishi koyre chatzi apasuk. Hashlishi koyre chatzi apasuk hashlishi. He reads Abba Upeskoy and he stops. He interrupts it there, and then from there the second one starts. Those were the two opinions over there. Why do each one says what they say? So the Gemara explains. Why does Rab Omar Doilik? Why does Rab say you go backwards instead of saying interruption? My time Omar Paisa. Why doesn't he say split? So why doesn't Rab like Shmuel's interpretation that you split the pasuk into two? Because Kosovar, he of the opinion, Kol psukod loy paskin Moshe, anon loy paskin loy. Any pasuk that wasn't split by Moshe, we have no right to split it. We can't split psukim on our own. If Moshe Rabbeinu didn't split it, then we're not going to split it. So now, why did Shmuel Omar paskin loy? How does Shmuel say that we're interrupted? But didn't Omar Rabbi Chanan Yekro? Rabbi Chanan Yekro, that's his name. He said, Rabbi Chanan Yekaro, that Tsar Godel Hoyeli Eitzel Rabbi Chanan HaGodel. I had a lot of pain that I had to do a whole pasuk together when I was before the great Rabbi Chanina. The Lohitterli Livsek, he only permitted me to break the pasuk only for children that are going to school, since they are learning. So therefore he allowed it. So since you see how difficult that we don't allow you to split a pasuk, how does Shmuel say that you can break up the pasuk? So the Gemara answers, well, that alone is your answer. Just like there's a special allowance for children, because they need to teach them. You can't teach them a whole pasuk at once. So he allowed to split the pasuk so that you can teach them half a pasuk. So he says, Hasam time amai. What is the reason over there? Mishum delay efshar. Because you don't have a possibility. Because you can't teach the children the whole pasuk. So he allows you. So in other words, when you don't have a choice, he allows you. But here also you don't have a possibility. Well, the Gemara, Shmuel Omar Pesach, Shmuel says that you interrupt my time Omar Doilik. But why should we interrupt, or why should we break up a pasuk? Why don't we just start one pasuk before, like Rav said? Why do we need to go and break up a pasuk? Why don't you just repeat the last pasuk? Why don't we just do? And by the way, this is the way we do it on Rosh Chodesh. What it's going to tell them soon. So he says, because if you are going to start over again, we worry about those who enter and those that leave. What is the worry? Rashi explains. They will hear him starting from that pasuk, and they don't know. They thought that the first one only read up to that pasuk. The Yomru, and they will say, "Lekorarishin Eloshnayim." He only read two psukim, because when they went in and they saw the second one read, they see there was only two psukim, so they're going to conclude that two psukim is okay. They're not going to know that he said third one and this one went back. The same thing is we have an issue with those who leave. They will hear the first one reading the three, and they'll go out of the shul. I mean, we're talking about in this case. So in the case of the Ma'amodis, and since they don't know that he's going to go back. So they saw 3 psukim read, and there was 2 left over. So they're going to think that the second word is only going to do 2. So that's why we don't do it that way, but rather we interrupt them in the middle. So I guess the same. I'm seeing the Gemara is going to ask another question here, but from another brisa. But I guess by Rosh Chodesh, that's the way it's done. Let's see. The Gemara doesn't have this conclusion. Let's see what the Gemara asks here. But the Gemara may see it. Let me ask you a question. It says in the brisa that Parsha shel Shisha Psukim, if you got a portion that has 6 psukim, you can read it 2 people, 3 and 3. V'shel Chamisha Psukim, if you have 5 psukim, then you do it b'yochid. You can only have 1 person read it. Can't split it. Can't split it. We need at least 3 psukim for each one. Garsin, Korah Rishon Shloisha. So the following gives it. The first one read 3. It's only 5. So Hasheni, okay, this is the version in Rashi. Let's do it inside. Korah Rishon Shloisha. If the first one of the 5, he only read 2. Hasheni Koire Shnai Parsha Zu. The Echad me Parsha Cheres. He read 2 of this parsha and 1 from the other parsha. I mean, that opinion doesn't care about 3 psukim in the next parsha. 1 pasuk is enough. And other people say no. You'll have to read at least shloisha, 2 of this parsha plus 3 from the next parsha. You don't start a parsha without reading 3 psukim from it. So, frag the Gemara. But if we go by the opinion that says that you can skip, why should we read 2 on the next parsha? Nidlik. Why don't we just jump back? And the first one read 3, so the second one should reread number 3, and he'll read 3, 4, and 5. So we'll have 3 psukim. The manda omar doilik nidlik. But he says this is only a question. The manda omar pesach nifsig. You can't, because he already read it. We can't say nifsig. That's not a question, because we're talking a case that he already read the 3. That's why Rashi fixes this lotion of the Gemara. Rashi says, "L'manda omer posek lek lemifrach." Can't ask a question. Why don't you interrupt? Because after you read the Korah Rishon Shloisha Katoni, it says that he read 3 of them. So we know that the Efsherid Lachzer, you can't really go back and split the pasuk. So it's not a question. So Rashi is not goyrus, is not version of the Gemara L'manda omer posek nifsek, because it's not a question. So the Gemara asked the question, so why don't we come up with a solution of going a pasuk behind instead of making him read 1 or 5 or 3 psukim in the next parsha? And the Gemara says, Shani Hosom, the Evshabachi. Over there it's different. There's no problem to read extra. Rashi says, so what's the problem? Shani Hos the Evshabachi, Likres me Parshas Lachreo. You can read from this parsha afterwards, because the Achmas Nisa Kaima B'Shein B'Chamishi. We're talking about Monday and Thursday. Shuyoch Likris Mashi Yirtzeh. Tzakol Minyan Shel Yoyim. You can read as much as you want. Everything is the subject of the day. This is the parsha of the week. So if you don't have enough psukim, go ahead and read further. When we're talking about Rosh Chodesh, when we're talking about Maimodis, Yom Rishon, and you need to read specifically these matters, so we're stuck. Or when we're talking about Monday and Thursday, we have only 3 aliyahs, so then we're saying that do 3. If you did 2, then you're going to have to make up either 1 or 3 psukim in the next parsha, because we can't just read as we want. Amar Rav Tanchon Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi says, Rav Tanchon Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi, Halacha ki yesh emrim. The halacha is like the yesh emrim, that you'll do 3, The Gemara is brought down in the next parsha, because we don't start. So you're going to do, if you have a portion of 5, and you read, the first one read 3, the next one is going to read 2 plus 3 in the other parsha. So I just want to show you the pasuk what we do on Rosh Chodesh. On Rosh Chodesh, therefore, the Gemara doesn't bring out. Maybe the Gemara will say it later on. But on Rosh Chodesh, we do like this. The first aliyah, look inside here. So the first aliyah, the 1, 2, 3. Do 3 psukim. Now we have a problem. If we're going to get the second aliyah, we're going to have a problem. So therefore, why? Because we're not going to get 3 more aliyahs in this plus the other 2 parshas that we're going to read. So what we do is we go back to Vamarta Lahem. We do another 3 psukim. 1, 2, and 3. So the second one jumped back Vamarta Lahem plus the 2 psukim. So now you have 3 psukim for the second one. And the third one, you do Oilas Tomid, you start from Oilas Tomid. You do 1, 2, and then you continue 3 and 4 in the next parsha. That's number 3. And number 4 goes to the next aliyah. Okay, so that's the way we do it. And so we do Doileg, and we have to do 3 psukim because you can't start a parsha less than 3 psukim. The Gemara is going to explain all the reasoning why we do that. All right, so just a word on the parsha. Today we're doing Lech Lecha, the portion of Lech Lecha, and Lech Lecha means that go out of your place, which Hashem says to Abraham Avinu, basically to leave his home and leave his place and go out into the world and spread monotheism. At that time, there wasn't Yiddishkeit yet, but that was the precursor before Matan Torah, before the Jewish people. He went out and to teach the other people. So there's an interesting idea, as we find in the Medrash, that he would actually feed the people, and then he would sort of, the Gemara actually says that, and then the Medrash elaborates, he'd feed the people, and then he'd ask them to pay for it. And if they didn't want to pay, he said to them, okay, then I want you to bench. If you bench, you don't have to pay. So the question, the Rebbe has a whole discussion, what's the value of forcing somebody to bench and to say and to do when he doesn't really, he's just doing it to get off your back. You know, a lot of Chabad people, they go on the street, you're Jewish, you want to put on tefillin. The guy said, you know, please, all right, I'll put on to your favor. So if the guy is not really interested, so you may ask, so what's the benefit? What you see by Avraham Avinu? There is actually definitely a benefit. I mean, for sure by Jewish people, but even non-Jewish people, even we're talking about the Ishmaelim, the Arabs, and things like that, just to bring to them in their lips some sort of a recognition, even though it just seems to be superficial and external, yet it makes an impact. And when a person says and makes the bracha and does that, it still has an influence and an impact in him. And so, how much more so? This is even talking about non-Jewish people. How much more so when we talk about Jewish people who do have an neshama, who even though they think they don't want, but really they do want. They want every Yid wants Yiddishkeit. So it's incumbent upon them to squeeze them a little bit, to push them a little bit. What does it mean? To push them a little bit, to do what's right, to do the mitzvahs. And when they do the mitzvah, they get into it. And the fact is that we see how many people, you know, through one mitzvah gereris mitzvah, you do one deed, and then the next thing is they're doing a whole bunch of mitzvahs and all over there. So should always not make light. What's the value? What's the benefit? How is it going to work? Should try our best even a one-time thing, two-time things. Even if the person says, I'm not into it, do it anyways. Hopefully, in the future, he'll get into it. Okay, hopefully that next week we'll get a bigger crowd. I don't know where everybody was today. And have a good week. I'll see everybody about next week. Probably like 7 o'clock. Hopefully, we're not gonna have a problem with the Zoom.
Meeting.
Have a great day.
You say next week will be 7 o'clock, Rabbi?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
Every
Thank you
time
so very much.
it's going to be 7 o'clock now, just because we're turning the clock as well. So there's no more interference with after this Motzei Shabbos, there's no more interference with Mincha Ma'ariv. So we'll have it regularly at 7 o'clock till the day gets big enough that it will get back into the 7 o'clock. The minyan will get back into that time.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
So good night. Thank you.